Sean, great to see you. Thanks so much for taking some time today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Seth. Great to see you too.
Awesome. Well, we've had a series of interviews about Holly Bird, and it's been really rich and beautiful to hear folks in the water sector reflect on Holly and our relationship with her and her presence in this work and the movement. We heard from Monica Lewis Patrick and Manape Lemaire, Manape, And Sean, you and Holly have worked pretty closely together on Line Five for many years, and it's been a project that a lot of us have really put a lot of energy into, and you've been there every step of the way. And I know that it's given you a unique vantage point about our friend Holly and how she shows up for the work and what she means to the movement. So I just wanted to give you some time to sort of reflect on, your friendship with Holly and her um, as a water protector in our state for the last couple decades.
Yeah, I mean, Holly was just such an amazing person. And we met through the Line 5 work, but that quickly turned into a friendship beyond beyond just working on an issue together. And um, I was really lucky in that I got the benefit of kind of Holly introduced me to um a lot of the indigenous ways of thinking about these things and things that hadn't really been um if you could, things that at least to me hadn't been as clearly articulated until I met Holly. And she she really helped build my appreciation for that part of the work. And her work on Line 5 and all sorts of pipeline issues, especially, was just, I mean, Holly was one of those people who was there, whenever something was going sideways, Holly was one of the best people to call.
Yeah.
Whether it was an issue she was directly involved with or not, Holly always seemed to have, almost like a sixth sense for what needed to be done, um, and what needed to be said. And she knew everybody in the
Mm.
water space. She seemed to know everybody in the indigenous community in Michigan. Um, she knew everybody in the Democratic Party spaces. And she had, and in that space particularly, she had such a gift for tolerating the bullshit. uh, um, and 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 really using that. She so Holly was she was just such a special person to work with, and I've been, the last several months I've been trying to kind of pin down like favorite memories of Holly, and it all seems like one rush of memories. Like there's just so much, and I was lucky to know her. She was such a such an exceptional friend and figure and warrior on these issues, and in the way she lived life. Um, and I was so glad when she started working with you at Title Track, or and just because of that integration of art and music with activism, and that I feel like is the way that Holly seemed to live. um, and that's, I think, something special to remember about her. And I was thinking about, kind of where we are right now. Holly I think she played an outsized role, and she's one of those people who, like, our understanding of the role that Holly played in life is only going to grow,
Mhm.
as we are, too soon separated from her. Um, I was reading some earlier this week. Recently it was the anniversary of John Brown's great raid on Harper's Ferry. And I was reading some of Frederick Douglass's words about John Brown and the raid in the years later after the Civil War had happened and everything. And Frederick Douglass pointed out that the what Douglass was referring to as the war to end slavery um, really didn't begin at Fort Sumter. It began at Harper's Ferry. Um, and I think that as we look at where we are now, facing down fascism and working to fight for a better world, Holly might not be there to see the better world that we're fighting for, but like John Brown did at Harper's Ferry, Holly, through her life and through her activism, has played a big role, hopefully, in creating what that world's going to look like if we're able to follow through and do it the right way.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you, Sean. I really feel all of that. And I feel her presence as we orient to the work ahead in such a strong way. My friend Sarna Salzman, who's the executive director of Seeds up here, she said, I'm feeling really strong Obi-Wan energy from Holly.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And just the sort of effervescence and ebullience that she was able to bring into work that desperately needs that energy, work of law and policy and of frontline resistance and of the seriousness of the work was definitely not lost on Holly, and she embodied the seriousness of it. But
Mm-hmm.
I think also she was serious about people staying engaged and bringing people in and making a life out of it, not just a campaign here and there. And I think
Yep.
that some of her genius was weaving in humor and weaving in a sense of fun and surprising people with this kind of things that she'd say during a meeting
Yep.
or on a panel. And
Yeah, and by doing that, like I mean, she made, another great contribution that I feel like she made was like she made law and the legal system accessible to people engaging in direct action and protest.
yes,
And that's a critical role. It's a very hard thing to do, and I don't know of anybody who could do it with kind of the humor and bringing the lightness to such a dark space that Holly was able to do.
no kidding. Yeah, it's really remarkable. And it's striking that I think, like you said, we have some space now to sort of reorient our relationship with her as an ancestor. And it helps to have perspective on all of the gifts that she brought to the table and how like there really wasn't anyone like her, but we learned from her. I learned from her,
Mm-hmm.
hearing you say the same thing. So
Yep.
some of those gifts we have to embody ourselves now as we orient to very serious work ahead, and the lift and the build that's required. It's going to take a lot of tactics.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I like that. Oh, I like what you said about the Obi-Wan energy. She is like, she's a guiding light. I think to me, I know, and to sounds like to you, and so I think so many people um who had the privilege of knowing Holly.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think about some of those early line five actions, when we were trying to get the word out, and how like you said, she had a really strong presence in multiple sectors, and she was able to use those relationships to get the word out quickly in indigenous communities to our current AG, Dana Nessel. I mean,
Oh,
Dana at Holly's memorial told the story of how Holly put in a call personally to her about how important Line 5 was, and really impressing upon her how much we're counting on her. And
yeah,
she always brought her kids to the work too. That was another thing that was so
yeah.
inspiring. It's like, yeah, the kids need to be a part of this and not just witness it, but be right in the center of it.
Yeah. I remember one of the early Line 5 actions. She she was very much, and this is before Dana was in office, when we had a way less favorable person in favor of the state in charge of the state police. um, and Holly was really impressing upon me the importance that we try to make sure that at this action, protesters do not touch the bridge. Um, but that if they decide to touch the bridge, God, just have them write my cell number on their arms.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And yeah. And she that and that was like part of the humor that she brought to it in a dark situation.
Exactly. And a sense of possibility.
Yeah.
She was always trying to get music and dancing going too.
Yep.
I always made sure I had my guitar with me and was ready to get the dance party started whenever there was live music at an event. We need it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
She made that connection. And that's part of I think how so many times we've both known activists who get burned out with the work.
Yeah.
Um and that's easy to do, especially if that's like the one component. If and I think part of what part of what made part of what Holly did that I've learned from and that I love that you kind of I feel like brought that into title track was making people realize that activism needs to be a more holistic experience. That it can't be this just serious campaign oriented work all the time, but that actually creating space for joy and laughter and music and art. Think of a successful movement in history without music and art.
Right.
There's not,
Yeah,
and Holly really helped bring that, I think, and bring that to a lot of different people.
definitely. Yeah. And again, like that multi-generational piece of like making
Hmm.
sure that children are engaged and elders are engaged and people have what they need and feel respected and safe. And that, we really are building community as part of this work. And there's got to be a lot of honey in the recipe because people love honey and they're going to come toward it.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think that it was cool too because as we were in these early conversations about title track, you could see the artist in Holly that really had always been there. Like she went to
Hmm.
Interlochen for art and she grew up in Detroit and has been around this melting pot of amazing cultural influences through her whole life. But um, she has always understood the need for creative practice to be a part of the work and also part of like the leadership and the organizing to have artists at these tables, people who can make something out of nothing pretty fearlessly.
Hmm.
um, and so she was always a very strong advocate for creatives to be taken seriously as leaders, and I always felt really supported by her in that way, and also just so honored that she took my work seriously. Like that was major wind in my sails. Yeah.
Yeah.
So line 5 is ongoing, and so we're at another stage now in this project. I'm wondering if you could share with our listeners, what the priorities are currently with Oil and Water Don't Mix. I follow
Yeah.
content. Another great video from Bill Latka just dropped recently. So maybe the current call to action could be shared.
Yeah, absolutely. Where we're at right now is so the public comment period. So Eagle, um, thanks to the advocacy led by Bay Mills Indian community up north, Bay Mills challenged Eagle's initial permits
Mhm.
because Eagle, to rewind for people, the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy granted permits for Line 5 tunnel construction back in early 2021. And Bay Mills challenged those permits. And it just happens to turn out that Enbridge vastly underestimated the amount of wetlands that they needed to plow under to build an oil tunnel underneath the Great Lakes. And it was to the point where Enbridge, and that I don't think would have been discovered without Bay Mills's challenge. But Enbridge had to go back to the drawing board on the permits. Like, they knew they were going to lose in court with what they had, so they voluntarily withdrew their initial Eagle permits and had to refile. And back in 2021, one of the other glaring mistakes that Eagle made, which was another thing Bay Mills was challenging, was Eagle did not look at building the tunnel under the Great Lakes Submerged Lands Act, I'm going to explain this. It sounds incredulous, but I'll explain how it kind of works. One of the problems that we're encountering in this process is, so we've been through years and years of a permit process for this tunnel. However, no government agency has actually looked at the environmental and cultural impacts of building a tunnel through the bottomlands of the Great Lakes. Because it seems like that's what everyone's looking at, but it's actually what nobody's looking at. So back in 2020, we told Eagle, and we kept making the argument that if they didn't look at that, nobody would, because they were the appropriate agency to do so. Because Eagle has power under the Great Lakes Submerged Lands Act and the Public Trust Doctrine, they have the authority to, issue permits and everything over the bottomlands and the lands beneath the bottomlands. So the Michigan Public Service Commission looked at whether or not you could put an oil pipeline inside a tunnel. The Army Corps of Engineers is looking largely at the same issue, and they're actually really doing a limited scope of review with the Army Corps. They're basically asking the question in the Army Corps review process, they're asking the question of what's the best way to deliver oil from St. Ignace, Michigan to Mackinac City, Michigan, which is pretty crazy because no oil goes in the pipeline in St. Ignace and no oil is removed in Mackinac City. But that's like the limited scope of review that they're taking. And so Eagle had to go back to scratch. And this time they are looking partially, and we'll see how much, at the Great Lakes Submerged Lands Act and the Public Trust Doctrine implications, and the environmental impacts and cultural impacts to tribal spaces and fishing rights of building a tunnel underneath the Great Lakes. So we're hoping that they're going to do more of a full review. I think during the month or so public comment period, they received like over 90,000 public comments. The vast majority of them opposing the Line 5 tunnel. So that's definitely a good sign. And right now, we're doing everything we can to keep the pressure up. In the end, this is going to be a decision made by Eagle Director Phil Roos, as well as Governor Gretchen Whitmer. And we are, keeping the pressure up to make sure they know that people in Michigan and around the country are watching to see whether the, agency tasked with protecting the Great Lakes and the governor who ran on shutting down Line 5 are going to stand up for the people and the water that we rely on here in Michigan, or if they're going to, stand for a multinational foreign oil company trying to exploit us for profit. And so folks can take action on oilandwaterdon'tmix.org. We have a petition to Governor Whitmer. We are also, sign up to get on our volunteer list. We're going to be having call-in days where we ask people to call the governor's office and, keep the pressure on to urge them to reject this permit request. But yeah, most important thing folks can do right now is to keep the pressure on the governor. She is, really a key decision maker on this.
Great. And those 90,000 public comments is tremendous. It's very, very rare for that many public comments to come in on anything. And those were
Oh
a
yeah.
couple of our biggest days of website traffic ever in the history of Title Track, trying to push those public comments through. People are really passionate about it, really engaged. And yeah, I feel like this is a moment, and it's like you said, it is an issue that Governor Whitmer ran on and won on. So
Yep.
we're counting on her, and Phil Roos as well, for that matter. Are you guys doing anything to leverage him, or is it more just focused on the governor?
Throughout the comment period, we had folks, and even before the comment period, we had folks calling Eagle.
Yeah,
We had folks writing, emailing Director Roos and the staff at Eagle. Um, and those are definitely good things to do as well. To keep the pressure up, keep calling Eagle. I mean, we're outside of the public comment period right now. But it's still important for people to hear from constituents.
yeah,
When we say that the state has the duty under the public trust doctrine to protect the waters of the Great Lakes, the public trust doctrine is us.
yeah,
We are the ones who, the state's duty is to protect the Great Lakes for the public in perpetuity. And we are the public, all the people who live here.
yeah.
So it's important that you make your voice heard wherever and whenever you can.
Excellent. Another big project you guys are working on right now is the Money Out of Politics initiative, which is our own mini Citizens United that we have the opportunity to overturn at the state level in some ways. But
Yeah.
it's unique to Michigan, and you know the landscape of Michigan politics and where funding comes from as well as anyone. So I'm wondering if you can walk us through this MOP
Yeah. So
initiative.
the Mop Up Michigan ballot initiative, we're calling it Michiganders for Money Out of Politics. And folks can find us at mopupmichigan.org. And this campaign, this is a ballot initiative where we're seeking to put a question on the ballot for 2026. And if we're successful, what this would do is it would ban both regulated utilities, so groups like DTE and Consumers Energy, as well as all government contractors with contracts worth more than $250,000 from spending any money uh, donating to candidates or lawmakers who impact those companies. So for our utilities, it would make it so that DTE and consumers can no longer make contributions to folks in the state legislature, folks running for the state legislature, or any entities associated with them, or governor, candidates for governor, or the attorney general, or candidates for attorney general, or any entities associated with them. And I say entities associated with them because an important thing that this initiative does is it not only bans kind of the normal contributions, it bans the dark money contributions. DTE, in fact, does not make any contributions that I'm aware of as DTE Energy. Those contributions go through DTE's 501c4. And DTE uses their 501c4 as a dark money entity to be able to make large contributions to lawmakers, without really having daylight on that.
Mm,
And in fact, like in 2022, when we had, which was the last time that we had the full state house and Senate up for election, 2022, we had 148 state legislators up for election, 38 in the state Senate, and 110 in the state house. DTE Energy made contributions to 138 out of the 148 of them.
mm,
All but 10 got DTE money.
mm.
And then we move into the Democratic trifecta, where we should have had action on climate. We should have had some utility accountability work happening. Um, and in fact, there was a great opportunity for utility accountability work because in the winter, there was a huge power outage in Southeast Michigan in DTE service territory, a lot of it affecting Detroit. And the State House Energy Committee was meeting on some utility accountability bills. And then all of a sudden, as if out of nowhere, those bills just kind of vanished. They had a few hearings and then nothing. So we found out a year later that, when his constituents were without power, and when people were really pushing for utility accountability bills during that storm, DTE's 501c4 gave $100,000 to Speaker Joe Tate's 501c4. And that made those bills go away. This happens regardless of whether the Republicans or the Democrats are in charge. Obviously, we have one former House Speaker serving a prison sentence right now for charges related to financial corruption. We have another former House Speaker, Lee Chatfield, on trial for charges related to financial corruption. We've got Tate accepting $100K from DTE through dark money entities while his constituents are without power. We have former state Senate leaders who are literally living off of the interest from their administrative accounts that they had when they were in office. We have a huge money in politics problem in Michigan, and it stops us from getting wins for everyday Michiganders. It's part of the reason why every year our power rates go up. Michigan has the most expensive rates and the worst reliability in the Midwest, and some of the most expensive rates and worst reliability in the country when it comes to our power grid. And it's largely because these utilities are able to buy the best representation in Lansing by buying lawmakers. The other group that this would impact heavily is government contractors. And actually, one of the largest government contractors in the state is Blue Cross Blue Shield. During the Democratic trifecta, Blue Cross Blue Shield, lobbied and made a lot of political contributions and succeeded in killing legislation that would have required insurance companies to use the same standards of care that doctors use when making treatment decisions. And so I know me and many others have been talking to people across the state about this ballot initiative. And I always like to ask folks how many people have spent too much time on the phone haggling with your insurance company because your doctor said something's medically necessary and the insurance paper pushers say it's not. People's hands shoot up at that one. It happens all the time to people all across the state. And the reason why that happens in Michigan more than it does elsewhere is because the insurance lobby has succeeded in making sure that they don't have the same standards of care as our doctors do. That's legal right now. So what this initiative would do, it would put Michigan residents back in control of the situation when it comes to our lawmakers. Our lawmakers should represent their constituents, not huge corporations. And so the three biggest spenders in Michigan politics, DTE, Consumers Energy, and Blue Cross Blue Shield, would all be banned from making either regular or dark money contributions if we pass this ballot initiative. And the other thing that we would do is close what's called the 501c4 issue ad loophole. Because right now you can run ads right up until election day and not report them as electioneering if they don't use the magic words. And the magic words are basically vote for, vote against, support, oppose, things like that. So for instance, you could run an ad campaign across the state with billboards that say Jocelyn Benson hates kittens. And if it doesn't say vote for or vote against, right now it doesn't count as electioneering.
Mm.
Um, and so we're changing that definition to make it so that if you're referencing a candidate or a ballot initiative within 100 days of a general election or within 30 days of a primary, if you're referencing them, it counts as an electioneering expense. And you have to report not only the expense, but all of the donations that all the contributors that came in to make that expense.
Mm.
Um, so it
Fantastic.
would, bring, so on that piece, it would bring in, and that's for everybody, regardless of whether you're a government contractor or utility or not. Um, so that would make it so that, when we're seeing a lot of the dirtiest ads that we see in election time, and, ads have gotten worse and worse on both sides of the aisle. um, but a lot of these attack ads that we see are ads that come from 501c4s and from PACs. They're not directly from candidates. And so they don't have to disclose their donors right now. So you don't know where the money that's funding these is coming from. I mean, one of the most insidious ones that I remember from 2024 was President Trump had a PAC that registered in Michigan as a pro Harris PAC. And they intentionally sent mailers out to a lot of the Palestinian and Arab American community in Michigan. They sent mailers out saying, like, vote for Harris. She'll always stand with Israel.
Wow.
Um, and nobody knows where the money for that came from because that doesn't have to be reported. Um, because it's an issue ad. So we're by closing that issue ad loophole, we could make it so that attack ads like that and other things, or even if it's something more malignant, or I'm sorry, more benign. If you're putting up billboards across the state saying somebody is America's best mayor, or whatever those billboards are saying, America's most effective mayor,
Mm-hmm.
that are from a 501c4. Nobody knows where the money from that's coming from. If we pass this, they'll have to disclose who the donors are to that.
Okay.
And
Huge.
so,
This is
yeah,
very comprehensive. Where are we at with signatures? What can people do?
yeah, we are in the signature collection phase. We have 180 days total to get over about 370,000 valid signatures. And so the things that we need everybody across the state coming together to make this happen, because the big money interests are not going to fund getting money out of politics.
Yeah.
We're not planning on being able to buy signature collection firms. I don't think DTE's check to support us has come in yet. And so this has been a people powered campaign, and we need folks getting involved. So anybody out there in the state can go to mopupmichigan.org and
Okay.
sign up to volunteer. For the best thing you can do, we need everybody to sign the petition. That's the first step. After you sign the petition, we have about a 15 to 20-minute training that we can put anybody through so that you can get set up to go as a signature collector. And whether you want to go out and collect, if you want to go out and collect signatures in public places, wonderful. Working the lines outside of concerts and stuff like that is, a really great, like that's one of my favorite ways to do it. There's folks lined like at here in East Lansing at the Wharton Center. Whenever they have shows coming through, it's a great time to go out and get folks to sign for the ballot initiative. And as we've talked about, people who support the arts are very likely to support things like this. If you want to do that, great. If you'd rather just like collect signatures from your friends and family, wonderful. We need everybody to sign, and we can put you through a 15-minute training, get you set up with petitions and everything else you need to go out and help us collect signatures to make sure that we put this on the ballot and give the people the chance to vote on it in 2026.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for this work. And we will do everything we can as partners to help get the word out. We have till February. Is that right?
Oh yeah, we're aiming to be finished by the end of February. We technically have it's a 180-day moving window so to get all the signatures. So we technically have until I believe this year it's late April.
Okay.
Um, but we're hoping to get this all finished by the end of February.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So you are now the executive director of Clean Water Action.
Michigan director, but yes.
Michigan, exactly. It's a national organization, but yeah, how are things? How is that for you, Sean? And what else is new within the organization?
It's going well. We have a great team. We've been able to expand a little bit with organizing capacity in both Southeast Michigan and also in Western Michigan with
Mhm.
building a new Grand Rapids team. And we are pretty as an organization right now, we are pretty singularly focused on line five and getting money out of politics. And that's because
Fantastic.
our staff, um, we've had a lot of chances over the last couple of years to get together and kind of talk about next steps in this work. Everybody was disappointed, with how the Democratic trifecta went. That we couldn't even get water affordability um, with the Democrats fully in charge of the legislature.
Yeah.
And we realized that the way the table is set right now is not in a way where we're going to be able to get wins for regular folks across the state.
Yeah.
And it's not in a way where we're going to be able to get wins on things like environmental justice. And so, we decided we really need to hit at root causes and and we needed to pursue campaigns no matter if the enemies are going to be really big, which they certainly are on these ones. Um, but that we need to go after the root causes of the problem. And so, with line five has been this ongoing fight that we've had the honor and the privilege to be a part of with Title Track and with so many across the state with our friends in all 12 of Michigan's federally recognized tribal communities have been incredible allies on this and everything. And I think, line five is a fight that could create a watershed moment when it comes to, we're not going to fight climate change by building green energy. Um,
Right.
Building green energy is a necessary step, but shutting down fossil fuels is also a necessary step. And line five has the opportunity, I think, to be a watershed there. Um, when it comes to other environmental issues, things like polluter pay, which is universally popular, polls over 90% in recent polls. The reason we don't have polluter pay is because of a lot of lobbying done by companies like DTE and consumers. Um, when we wrote, this new what's being referred to as a climate law or clean energy law that Governor Whitmer and the Democrats passed during the trifecta. Um, I know some organizations did come out in support of that package, but just about every environmental justice organization in Michigan and Clean Water Action as well opposed those bills. We started out in support, but then all the good things were kind of taken away. And I can't tell you how many times I was told by people in leadership that they couldn't pass what essentially good climate legislation because they needed DTE to at least be neutral on it. Otherwise, they would never be able to pass it.
Yeah.
Um, and so we wound up with this climate legislation that has loopholes big enough to drive new gas plants through, where we're considering burning trash, renewable energy. Um, like we, and then to make matters worse, in the same legislative session, the Dems then went and undermined their own so-called clean energy law um, by passing the tax rebates for data centers. And the environmental community had really fought the data centers bill to a standstill. over the course of many months, we stood together and fought against big tech and fought them to a standstill on the data centers bill, which, for those who aren't familiar, this is a bill that gives a um, almost a 50-year sales and use tax exemption for all data centers and data center equipment that gets set up in Michigan. Um, Data centers have a history of promising lots of jobs and economic development. I haven't been able to find one data center where they've actually stood true to those promises once they start building. And data centers increase energy demand, and your average large data center uses between 2 and 5 million gallons of water every day in their evaporative cooling systems. But so we incentivized the building, and so we had fought the tech industry to a standstill over that until DTE and consumers weighed in favor of the data centers, and then those bills passed. And why did DTE and consumers weigh in on data centers? Well, data centers create such a large demand for energy that it's going to let DTE and consumers access the off ramps that they built into the clean energy plan to build new gas plants and call it clean energy. So like that's the system that we're up against. And so we've decided to, as Clean Water, we've decided to really focus our efforts for now at the root causes. And once we can successfully get utility money and government contractor money out of politics, we're hopeful that we can then go back to doing some legislative work on things like community solar, and doing renewable energy zoning in a way that's going to benefit our urban communities where people want to have the benefit of solar energy and aren't getting that right now.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of things with polluter pay, water affordability. The list is pretty endless as far as what we think will be easier to accomplish when corporate money in politics is no longer the size of the obstacle that it is right now.
Mm. Well, thank you so much for taking this up. This is really an amazing opportunity that folks have to, exactly what you said, get at the root causes, to go upstream and do something pretty revolutionary here in Michigan that's also just common sense. And it's nonpartisan. It's really fighting fascism here in Michigan, which has been a huge problem for decades, honestly.
Yeah.
It's the state and corporate power coming together to undermine people power, and we've had to fight that every step of the way. And that is the pathway to real change. And so you guys are on the front lines once again, like always, and we're so grateful to be in relationship and partnership with you guys. And just to kind of bring it to a close, Sean, let's bring it back to music. What's going on in your world with music these days?
Yeah, man, we're grateful to be working and partnering with you all as well. Always great. I love it when I see Title Track at events and get to hang out with you. But yeah, music's going on. I've got a band out of Lansing and called 517 Funk Tet. Folks can find us on all major streaming platforms.
Love the new live album, man.
Yeah, thank you. We have Live in Lansing is our first album release. And we recorded it at a few gigs in town here. But we've been playing around. We've got a couple shows coming up. Halloween, we're playing over here at Red Cedar Spirits in town, which
Nice.
is definitely one of our favorite venues. And looking forward to booking more things in the new year here. But I've been I've just been woodshedding a lot and getting practice time in and getting ready
Keep
to
this
go.
going.
Working
Yeah.
on I've been I was at Detroit Jazz Festival. I was able to shout out to great New York saxophone player and rapper Lakeisha Benjamin. I don't know if anybody's had the opportunity to check her out. man, she's got I've been like studying her albums recently. Um,
Cool. I'll
and
check her out.
but yeah, and she does the same kind of thing. Like she's a lot of her music, you can tell it like it comes from a background and spirit of activism.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, but yeah, I mean, music's for me. It's like it's one of the things that keeps me sane and keeps me focused. And I really like that um, you can control your practice time. Like, and it always and practice always helps. It's to me it's kind of like a meditative practice. To some degree. Although I forget who, but one of my old teachers used to say that one of my musical mentors used to say like, if you ever want to get be big and famous and everything, try to go into rock. But
Hmm.
like the life of like a jazz, funk, blues musician, it's more like being a monk than it is a celebrity. You're just sitting there going through the scales every day.
Wow. Yeah.
And like getting the practice time in so that you can communicate better. And but I mean that's what it's about for me. Like the joy of music is being able to communicate, to get to a point where you can communicate without words on an instrument. And
Yeah.
I feel that with what you do too, Seth. Like being able, you communicate so well. Like an acoustic guitar is not the easiest of instruments to make sound differently. But like I can tell you playing an acoustic guitar from other people playing an acoustic guitar. You inject your own personality and feeling into it in a really
Mm.
cool way. And what I love about music is that we're all, I feel like, trying to get better at doing things like that.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. And it's this vehicle for the heart and soul to be expressed and to be replenished that has just worked for human beings through all time. Like music
Yep.
just goes all the way in and it comes out from a deep place. And yeah, well, and over the years you kind of find your way into your voice. It's
Yep.
like these scales are mantras for us, and we
Yeah.
keep running them.
Yep.
Well, support your local water protector when they play their gigs, folks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time, Sean, and look forward to following up with you and your team as things progress. And it's going to be a big year in 2026. I know you guys are going to be, uh, organizing and mobilizing and working from both the C3 and the C4 angles to educate voters and candidates, and when the time comes, endorse the water protectors that deserve to be endorsed. And I always count personally on your endorsements to help inform me and orient me to what's going on all the way down the ballot. So
Well, thank you, man. It's a pleasure to connect with you today. I always love sitting down for these conversations. And yeah, keep your eye out. I think we'll have some endorsements coming, hopefully sooner rather than later.
good.
We're working to get a jump on things. And, again, folks want to get involved with money out of politics, mopupmichigan.org, and you can
Oh,
sign up to volunteer and help us out collecting signatures to do some direct democracy work.
beautiful. You heard that, folks. Let's do this. Thanks so much, Sean. Keep
Yeah,
up the
thank
good
you,
work,
Seth. Have a
brother.
good one.
You too.